I think I know how Shen's gonna survive this one. Like, I'm mostly confused on the way that it'll work, but I can kind of understand how it'll work to some degree. You know, it's really weird. I'll explain in a moment, but this was nice getting generally just like some more information on his backstory. I was actually really worried that the reason Shen, like, his sister died would be more of like, he had some form of selfish desire to like want to be the strongest, and it ended up like killing his sister. I was so worried about something like that happening. Obviously, it was, it was in a better direction. It was more towards his, him not having control over his negator power like the day he got it, obviously leading to his sister's death, because he makes people do the opposite of what they want. So, wanting him to hold on, like, she's just gonna let go. And I think that might be how, like, it works. Like, I'll accent, not the power stuff. We know how the power works for the most part. But, like, the way that I'm gonna describe how it works in a moment. But, after the start of the chapter, like, Shen, he just falls over. He's still got the freaking big staff weapon embedded into his chest. Andy, we know Andy's pretty much fine. And, like Fang just has it kind of, like, come right back to him. Like, he just force pulls that thing over. And Andy does a really sick new move. Like, he like, breaks his arm or something. And then in the process, it, like, makes his, like, the bone kind of, like, push back and then shoot out. So we saw him use, like, his fingers as weapons before, but like this, he's just, like, essentially has, like, a bone spike cannon. I thought that was really sick. Like, he's got a really fun moveset. I definitely like that a lot about Andy. He's got, like, one of the more, like, interesting just setups, because he isn't, for the most part, doing things that are really that complicated, but it's just, like, really weird ways that, like, his, body utilization is going for. I think when it comes to the more creative techniques of, the whole undead power, the dead end one is still probably my favorite. It's like, it's cool to just, like, pressurize giant blood weapons. I thought that was just really sick. Like, using bone, like, shooting out bones, like, as weapons. Like, I've seen in some other stuff. Like, it doesn't make it a bad thing. I mean, like, bone weapons are cool in essentially every medium. But it's not nearly as hype as the dead end one. But it's cool because I didn't think of him doing something in this manner, and I don't think he's done anything like it prior. Like, the way that he's shooting it out too, it's coming out, like, right at the top end of his wrist. It's kind of like almost like some reverse Spider-Man thing, but he's shooting the bone out. And after that, like, just follow up, you have Izumo end up shooting, just, using her gun on on Fang, and he catches it, like, the bullet with his toes. I'm actually really curious if she touches the bullets and then shoots, and then because the bullets get to him, would she be able, like, thinking like how her power works, would she be able to do something like that to the bullets, maybe? I'd be very curious as to how that could potentially work. But outside of just that kind of, like, couple moves from the two of them, it's more of a Shen chapter. Shen is, like, hallucinating. He's seeing his sister, and she's like asking, like, are you an illusion? And she doesn't really know. And while doing it, he has, like, a vision of essentially, like, him seeing himself, but it's his younger self apologizing to his sister about causing her death. And so I think this is just, like, some weird near-death experience. Like, he's just seeing this in his head. I don't really know if this is actually, like, an afterlife thing. Because, like, the series obviously has God and stuff, and has all these characters with these crazy powers. So it can make sense of why you could have, a character, in the afterlife, assuming they have an afterlife set up similar to, like, the idea of, like, heaven or hell or something. And him being able to communicate with her, maybe it's kind of like, one of the, like, you're so close to, like, being dead that it's almost like you're present, like in the same presence of them kind of thing, like a limbo type of move. But you see, like, the moments when, the whole death of his sister happened, and Fang just kind of, like, casually kicked her over the side. I wish that he went down with her. I don't know. Like, he's got crazy feats, even, like, for a kid, but I don't know if you'd be able to describe that, but I feel like it wouldn't surprise me if he could do some crazy martial arts moves to get him, like, on the cliffside and maybe save his sister. So unfortunate that she's dead. I'm kind of hoping that, like, the whole thing with his sister at some point is revealed, like, she never actually was dead, you know, have this be like the whole point of it being like, are you an illusion, hallucination, whatever, she doesn't really know. And it can maybe just be something in his head, and then we see his sister later on, and maybe she does end up becoming absurdly more powerful. Like, maybe she didn't know her brother was a negator or something, and then ended up kind of, like, joining the other side. I don't know. Or maybe a different side, maybe a different antagonist group. Or something like that, actually, because, like, the thing is, like, God is apparently the final villain, so he could easily do something like resurrect characters' dead, like, loved ones and maybe form, like, a bad guy group. That'd actually be really cool, though, now that I think about it. But we see more during Shen's backstory, and, like, seeing him kind of just grow up, like, you know, wanting to climb up that, kind of that power ladder so he could eventually defeat Fang. And I'm watching, like, him just fight random dudes, and then you see him defeated by Juiz, and I was like, yeah, I don't think he can take her. She definitely seems, like, out of his league. Not, like, so far that he couldn't do anything, but definitely stronger than, you know, what he's capable of. I mean, like, he's cool, but his power isn't as, it's not nearly as dangerous as what she's got. And on top of that, she's clearly got more experience and more knowledge, so yeah, she's just more of a threat in general. After that point, we have him come across Mui, and I was very curious to, like, her brother, because you see her protecting, who I assume is, well, no, they even mentioned it was her brother. I was, like, thinking, like, maybe he stayed there, but it's like, oh, no, that's definitely her brother. And I don't think he's ever shown, at least that I can remember. There's a grave, like, scene after that, but I don't think it's straight stated that is her brother that maybe died, but it's definitely, you know, I think it's insinuated a little bit of being him. At that point, you just see, like, Mui and Shen, you know, her always with him, and then eventually, clearly, he got attached to her at some point, and then, you know, had seemingly grown some emotional attachment, you know, some affections for her, like, sister Hallucination is even, like, messaging them, asking, like, how much she likes him, or how much he likes her and stuff, and saying how he should, you know, or he should go and protect her, go live for her. And that's when, like, you get this scene when he, like, wakes up and he's, like, spitting up all this blood. And I was confused for, like, a good half second when I was reading the end of the chapter when he's like, could you please kill me? Then I forgot, because, like, he's having her, essentially he's going to have her do the opposite. And the thing is, like, the negator powers are very broken. Like, we know that they are literally in the way of negating that rule. Whatever God put in place towards the rule of whatever this is, they're like the exclusion of it. That's why when the rule of death happened, Victor ended up becoming the Undead, you know, all these other guys, you know. So, if his power, like, say he could reverse her into killing him, like, literally doing the opposite, if she can find a way to save him, like, maybe some miraculous way that it'll just kind of, like, use his power will just almost force the knowledge of how to save his life here, because he's definitely in some dangerous situations. He's got a freaking hole in his stomach, but given, like, the powers and abilities and stuff in this world, and, you know, all this stuff with artifacts and the things at their disposal, it wouldn't surprise me if they could save him from a wound like this, and I think they're going to. I don't think the manga is going to kill off Shen after, like, what we got in these couple chapters, and then ending the chapter the way he did, just because I don't know, it'd feel really weird to have all that and then still kill him off, kind of thing. But Shen, we'll see exactly where this goes with him in a couple of chapters, but I'm definitely really hyped to see more of how his character is going to progress throughout the story and how this is going to go. And also, how is this whole, like, him essentially trying to get her to the opposite of, you know, kill me. So it's going to force her hand to do, you know, to save him, but how exactly is that going to work? I don't really know. Anyway, it was a pretty fast-read chapter. It was way more focused on Shen, but, like, it was more of, like, taking stuff we already knew about him and just giving us some extra context and details to it. So it wasn't anything that crazy of a review. It was more of just kind of like a push forward for his character, which is still good. Like, Shen is probably my favorite so far. I think the only one I would say, like, is a contender for him, maybe, like, it could have been Billy, but we don't have enough Billy content, but Victor is up there too. Anyway, other than that, though, comment below. Thumbs up the video, front like, but subscribe and check out my other videos. Better than that, I appreciate everyone's already subscribed, and thank you all for listening. Bye.